So what we'll do is nothing but, we'll continue the series which was started, and I hope all of you have seen the session on best questions of time, speed, distance, which was taken by Amit sir, right? If you have not seen it, please ensure that do watch it, because that was a really wonderful session which was taken. And now what we'll do today is nothing but we'll just carry forward that journey. And in today's session, we'll be talking about ratio proportion. Now, as we know that ratio proportion is one of the topic as far as arithmetic is concerned, and every year we have seen lot many questions are being asked from arithmetic, and one of the important topic in that is nothing but ratio proportion. Every year you talk about CAT 24, 23, 22, and if you go back also, at least one question is always there directly from ratio proportion. And apart from that, if you look at the data interpretation, so percentage along with ratio proportion plays a very, very important role. If you want to solve a question of DI in no time, obviously, if you have the skill set of using ratios, and along with that, if you are good when it comes to percentages concerned, you can do wonders in that. Basically, the time that you'll take will be on the lesser side, and you'll be able to utilize that time for the other questions as well. Apart from that, ratios and percentage, we have seen that it was very, very important in time, speed, distance. Also, when you talk about time and work, when you talk about questions which are based on geometry, so we take the ratios, and then probably we'll be able to make life very easy when it comes to those questions are concerned. So what we'll do today is nothing but we'll just talk about few of the important questions which came in the recent past in the ratio proportion. Now, when I use the word important, that means good quality question. Question may be easy. It's not about that solving a tougher question or showing a tougher question means it's a good question. Good question is nothing but which clears your doubt, which clears your understanding also. And also it is going to be, I would say, a benchmark for the further few questions which will help you to solve them also. Right? So in this, we'll be talking about the past few year question in the recent past only. Let's move on to the first question. The question that came in CAT 24, that means the last year only. Yes, please read a question very carefully. It says, a vessel contained a certain amount of solution of acid and water. When 2 liters of water was added to it, the new solution had 50% acid concentration. Important point. When 15 liters of acid was further added to this new solution, the final solution had 80% acid concentration. The ratio of water and acid in the original solution was. The real CAT 24 question, if you read it carefully, because when it comes to arithmetic, it's all about reading the data very carefully, because if you are able to read it very carefully, you'll find that the question is not tough. Now, important point is nothing but put emphasis on all the information so that your understanding would be right, because I've seen many times people are not able to understand and they jump on solving it, and thereby they end up getting not the right answer. Now, if you look at this question again, it says initially it is an acid and water. When 2 liters water was added to it, the solution become 50% acid concentration. So that means the moment I add 2 liters, it is 50% acid and 50% water. That means the volume of acid and water becomes equal the moment I add 2 liters of water into this. So can we take it from that? Let's assume that if initially acid and water, can I say, since 2 liters of water is added and it becomes equal, so let's assume that if initial volume of acid is X liter. So therefore, can I say X minus 2 liter is the volume of water? Because the moment it says, the moment you add 2 liter of water into this, it will become 50% concentration of acid. Therefore, acid and water volume will become equal. Therefore, I can say earlier it was 2 liter less. Now, after this, the moment I added 2 liter water, it will become X liter acid and X liter water, which is nothing but 50% acid concentration. Now, the next step says when 15 liter of acid was further added. Now, earlier it was 2 liter of water which was added. Now they're saying if 15 liter of water acid was further added. So that means now the moment I add 15 liter of acid into this, which is 15 liter. So therefore, now the total amount of acid will become nothing but X plus 15. While the water content will be X liter only. Can I say so not? So the first step was nothing but 2 liter of water was added. It becomes equal. That is 50%. And now we've got 15 liter of acid is added. Therefore, the acid will become X plus 15, while the water will remain X liter only. Now it says the final solution had 80% acid concentration. So now it is 80% acid concentration. So can I say by default, if it is 80% acid, so therefore water content is going to be 20%. That means we can safely say that it is 80% acid. So by default, we can say it is going to be 20% water in the entire solution. So now from here, my aim is to identify the value of X. And once I know the value of X means my job is done. Now, one way is nothing but you'll say, okay, 80% of the total solution is going to be acid and then solve it, right? But then at the end of the day, my aim is also to solve this question in a lesser span of time. Can I say now the amount of acid to the amount of water is going to be nothing but 4:1? Because I know acid is 80% of the total volume, while water is 20% of the total volume. So therefore, if I take the ratio of acid and water, which is going to be X plus 15 upon X, can I say it is equal to 80 upon 20, which is 4/1? And from here, we can directly calculate by cross multiplying that X plus 15 is equal to 4X, which implies that X is coming out to be nothing but 5. Now, when I say X is equal to 5, so therefore initial acid is 5 liter, while water is going to be nothing but, it's nothing but 5 minus 2, which is 3 liters initially. Now the question nothing but ratio of water to acid is what? So I know it's going to be 3 liters to 5 liter. Therefore, option number 3 is the correct answer. So just observe it very carefully. I'll be answering the questions which are there on the chat. Let's try and understand. The question has no rocket science in that. It was just a basic information which was there. So rather than dealing in two variable, we can always deal in one variable and then try and solve it. I hope it's clear with everyone, right? Okay. Now, it's not the only way to solve it. There are multiple ways of looking at it. So this is one of the basic layman approach where you'll be able to get an answer in a shorter span of time. Now, what we can do is nothing but we can also go ahead by moving in the reverse order. Please pay this attention very carefully. We'll be going by moving in a backward manner. Now, how we can do that? Just observe very carefully how we can just do this moving in a backward manner. Now, I know initially 2 liter of water is added. We know that, and the ratio becomes 50%. After that, it is 15 liter of acid is added, and therefore after this acid become 80%. So moving the reverse order, finally 80% acid is there, and that means it's 20% water. This is after the two processes of adding 2 liter water and then 15 liter of acid. Right. Now that means the final ratio of acid to water is nothing but 4:1. That means if I take finally 4A is the volume of acid. Acid is 4A liter while water is A liter. I need to calculate the value, but yes, I can say if the final ratio is 4:1, that means it's going to be 4A liter and the A liter. And this is when I have added 15 liter of acid into this. So therefore, had I not added that 15 liter, had I not added the 15 liter, so can I say the ratio of acid to water was nothing but 1:1? Because I know it was 50% concentration of acid, and therefore I can say 50% acid is there. Therefore, the other 50% is going to be nothing but we have got water, and therefore I can say it was 1:1 before adding these 15 liter. So that means if I have not added this 15 liter, so this was 4A minus 15, and the water was A liter. Can I say it means both were equal because it was 50%? From here, I can say 3A is equals to 15 or A is coming to be 5. And when I say A is coming to be 5, that means before the addition of these 15 liter, it was 5 liter water and 5 liter acid is there. That means I've moved just one step backward, and now I've just reached at a stage which is after the addition of 2 liter water. Now, if that water is not added, so that means water would have been -2, which makes it 3, while the acid was nothing but 5 only. Hence, the ratio was nothing but 3:5. So different ways are there. You can always move in the reverse order in order to get that. You can always move in the forward order where you take the value and then solve it. But these are the two, I would say, best possible ways to interpret a question which came in the real CAT 24. Now, let me see some of the queries if you have. Okay, so what will be the approach if after 2 the concentration is not 50%? Now, if they don't give you 50%, they'll give you some value in that. And whatever that value is given, let's say they have given you 60%. So in that case, the other is going to be 40%. And therefore, I would say the ratio will become 3:2. Right? So it all depends, whatever the value is given, based on that, we'll be able to take a ratio and then get this done. So I'm just giving you. Okay, so I'm just giving you 30 seconds. Please try and absorb it. And then we'll start with the next question, right? Now let's talk about the second question that came in CAT 2022. Please read the question carefully. I'll just read out if some part is missing that you are not able to read it. So I'll just read the entire question so that it should not be a problem for anyone, right? The question says, in an election, there were 4 candidates and 80% of the registered users casted their votes. So that means out of the total who are registered, only 80% people have casted. That means 20% have not casted. By default, it should come to your mind the moment you are reading it. One of the candidates received 30% of the casted votes, while the other 3 candidates received the remaining casted votes in the proportion 1:2:3. If the winner of the election received 2512 votes more than the candidate with the second highest votes, then the number of registered voter was. So the moment I read the question, what will be there is nothing but 1. There are total registered voter. Out of those, there are some people who have voted, casted their vote, while the remaining have not. And the people who have casted their vote to 4 candidates, so they've given how much one candidate has got and the other, what is the ratio of the other 3? That data is there. And finally, they're asking nothing but number of registered voters. Now, I know number of registered voters is something they're asking. So what we'll do is nothing but we'll just try and see how this question can be approached. There are multiple ways of looking at it. So I'll just tell you 2, if not more, how we can always solve these kind of a question. One could be the approach where I'll be following a layman approach, but yes, effective, which will always give me the right answer, because one thing is to get a right answer, 2 is going to be nothing but getting it in a shorter span of time, right? So we'll talk about both the things so that 1, yes, I should get it right, and 2, then we'll also try and see, okay, what best can be done if I have to save my time also, right? Just observe it very carefully. Now, total number of registered voters. So if I assume, let's say the total number of registered voter is equal to 100x. Now the important point here is going to be nothing but I have taken that value to be 100x instead of taking that value to be x. The reason behind that is going to be nothing but if we take a value to be 100x and if I need to calculate 10% of that, I know the value is going to be 10x. If I need to assume a value 20% of that, it's going to be 20x, or 15% will be 15x, and therefore 5% will be 5x. So the advantage will be nothing but if I have to talk about 10, 15, 20, I don't have to deal in decimal. Because the moment decimal or a fraction comes in the picture, automatically our brain works at a slightly lesser pace. And in order to solve a question, we generally take little extra time. So try and avoid as much as it is possible if we can actually do in complete integral values, or I would say a natural number values, right? So if I assume, let's say the total registered voters are nothing but 100x. Now, as stated in the question, 80% of that, which is 80x, are the 80x are the one who actually casted their vote. So therefore, remaining 20x are the one who did not cast their vote. Did not cast their vote. Now, out of those 80x, the people who have casted, it says 30% of the casted votes were given to one of the candidate. That means out of those 80x, 30% of that. So I know if I need to calculate 30% of a number, so I know 10% is going to be 8x, therefore 30% will be into 3. I hope we all are well versed with all these reciprocal and calculate the percentage, which gives me 24x are the one which was given to one of the candidate, which is 30% of 80x. And now when I talk about the remaining 56x, Now these 56 are the one which are given to the remaining 3 in the ratio 1:2:3. So according to question, I can say straight away say this. So 56s is given to 1:2:3. And now they've mentioned that the difference between the winner and the second highest is equal to 2512. Now, if I talk about out of these 1:2:3, the maximum number of votes are by this candidate, which is equal to 3/6 of the total value, which is 56, which is coming out to be nothing but 28x. So that means this candidate has got 28x of the total votes. I hope I'm making sense in that. Now, if you talk about the person who's there, is going to be nothing but 2/6 of 56x, which is coming out to be nothing but 56x by 3, which is going to be nothing but close to 18 point something. Now, important point here is nothing but I'm least bothered about what is that value, because the question says difference between the winner and the second highest. So I know the person winner is going to be the one who has got 28x, and therefore the second highest is nothing but 24x. Can I say so not? And it's given the gap between these two. So that is why I stated whether it is 18.34, 18.66, I'm least bothered about that because this is the person who stood third. And therefore, I'm not worrying about what exactly the value is. And the difference between the winner and the second highest, that is going to be 28x minus 24x is given as 4x, which they have given as 2512. Now, if it is 2512, so can I say from here, I'll be able to calculate the value of x? So x will come out to be nothing but 2512 upon 4, which is coming out to be nothing but 4 6 are 24. We have got 4 2s are 8 and then 4 8s are 32. So therefore the value of x is coming out to be nothing but 628. My question nothing but the total number of registered voter, which was 100x. And hence I can straight away say the value is coming out to be nothing but option number 1, which is the correct answer to this. Absolutely correct, Kushagra. Yeah, Reena, I can understand. Therefore, I'm just reading out the entire question because there's some issue in that, and therefore you're not able to see the right part of the question. Right. Okay. So that is why I just read the question so that you'll be able to understand everything. Right. I hope now you understood the question also. Now, this is one way of looking at it, which is, as I mentioned, just assume a value to be 100x, start solving it, moving further, and based on that, we'll be able to solve it. Now, let's try and observe, can we try and do some other methodology in order to look at the question? Now, if you observe the question, right, just observe it very carefully. I know out of the total number of voters, 80% casted their vote. And the number of people who have casted their vote cannot be in fraction, it cannot be in decimal. So that means the total number of candidates who are registered has to be such that 20% who have not casted should be an integral value and also an 80% also integral value. So now if I look at the options carefully, I can straight away say option number 3 and option number 4 cannot be my answer, because if I calculate 20% of 40,192 people who have not casted their vote or 60,288 and calculate 20% of that, these are not coming out to be a value in the integral form. Hence, I can straight away say these two choices are the stupid choices which are added to just put 4 options. I mean, I should not say this, but these are the two choices which can never be my answer, I know. And since I know these two cannot be the answer, so I know my answer will be either option number 1 or option number 2. Right? I hope it's clear. We can always say it will be either option number 1 or option number 2. So what we can do is nothing but we can just pick up one of the option and start solving and identifying. If everything which is stated is verified, I will say yes, that is my answer. Else I will say no, this cannot be the answer, and therefore the fourth option which I'm left with is going to be my answer for that. Now let's try and observe. I'm just trying to tell you how can we play with the option also. So if I, let's say, put up the option number 2, which says 50,240. Now, if you look at 50,240, and I know 20% of these people, 20% of these people have not casted their vote. So therefore, out of those, if you calculate 20% of this, now I know 10% of a number is going to be nothing but 5,024 in this case. So 20% is going to be nothing but double of that, which is going to be 10,048, which is equal to 10,048. I can straight away say this. So these are the number of people who have not casted their vote. So therefore, number of people who have casted their vote is going to be nothing but 50240 minus 10,048. And if you subtract it, so it's going to be nothing but which is coming out to be nothing but 40,192. I hope it's clear. I mean, what I've done is nothing but from the total number of registered voter by picking up that option, I know 20% have not casted. So therefore, number of people who have casted their vote is going to be nothing but 40,192. And now if I read the first line of the question, which says one of the person has got 30% of that. And if you calculate 30% of this number, which is again coming out to be a number which is in decimal, hence I will say this cannot be my answer. And since if this cannot be my answer, that means the only option which is a feasible option that can be my answer is going to be option number 1. Now, with practice, you'll be able to identify and you'll be able to actually look at the options also. And the options are the best way where you can actually try and say, okay, these options cannot be my answer. Let's say I'm left with only 2 options. You can put one out of these 2 and start looking at. If at one stage of time you are able to see that, okay, this cannot be my answer, therefore you'll straight away say, okay, the answer is wrong, and hence the only left option is the answer. While sometimes you end up getting an answer in that and you'll say, okay, this is my answer. So that's again one of the technique, but again, we can always use it smartly if the options are there and I can actually visualize that, okay, it's going to be 80% who have casted, therefore 20% have not. So therefore number has to be 1 whose 20% is coming out with integral value, and then we can move ahead. Yeah, Labdi, I stated in the beginning, whenever I need to assume, we can assume a value to be x, we can assume a value to be 100x or something. The reason of assuming it 100x is that if I have to calculate 10% of that number, it will be 10x. If I need to assume a 20%, it's going to be 20x. Since it says 80% have casted, so 20% not casted. So the reason of assuming a value to be 100x is going to be nothing but so that I have to deal in the integral values. That was the only idea. So just to make my task looks easy, because of if the question looks easy, obviously my approach is going to be better and I'll be able to take less time, right? Okay. Yeah, absolutely correct, Utsav. So yeah. Okay. So I hope the question is clear. So there could be multiple ways, as I mentioned, right? You can always deal in percentage. You can say, okay, 80%. So 30% of 80% going to be 24%. And then you can always go ahead with that. But then at this point of time, important is nothing but read the question very carefully, go step by step, and you'll be able to get the answer. In the classes also, we've talked about that. I hope, I mean, all those who are a part of IMS must have seen that, right? Okay, let's move on to the next question. Third question. It was a part of CAT 23. Let's read the question very carefully. It says, and every year, the story is going to be there every year. Last year also, if you talk about, every slot, CAT 24, there was a question of ratios, which is not tough. The question is easy. It's all about if your understanding is better, you can always solve these kind of questions. And arithmetic, we know that's going to be around 8 to 11 questions, which comes every time. So this is one of those area which can be a kind of, I would say, a booster in reaching towards 99 percentile mark in the quant section. Right? Okay. Yeah. So let's move the question again. It says, Anil mixes cocoa with sugar in the ratio 3:2 to prepare a mixture A. Okay. So Anil has prepared a mixture A by mixing cocoa and sugar in the ratio 3:2. And coffee with sugar in the ratio 7:3 to prepare B. So A is prepared, B is prepared by mixing some ratio of cocoa and sugar for A and coffee with sugar for B. He combines mixture A and B in the ratio 2:3 to make a new mixture C. If he mixes C with an equal amount of milk to make a drink, then the percentage of sugar in the drink will be. So we'll start step by step. First of all, if we try and understand, mixture A is formed by mixing cocoa with sugar in the ratio 3:2, while mixture B is formed from, this is cocoa, let me write this, cocoa, while for the second it is going to be nothing but coffee with sugar. It is in the ratio 7:3, right? And we have prepared mixture B. Now, once A and B are prepared, now what we have done is nothing but we have taken A and B in the ratio 2:3. So that means 2 parts of A and 3 parts of E, something which we have taken. And then after mixing them, a C is formed, right? So step by step, C is formed. Now, what happened? Nothing but after this, we have added equal amount. So whatever amount is which is prepared by mixing A and B in the ratio 2:3. So equal amount of milk is mixed with C. And now the question is, what is the percentage of sugar in the drink? So that means now they're asking what amount of sugar is there when we have in terms of percentage. That means the point of concern, the point of focus here is the amount of sugar and the total volume or a weight, so that I'll be able to calculate what is the percentage of that. So important point is going to be nothing but I need to keep an eye on only on the sugar and the total volume. So again, different ways are there to solve it. So if I go with the basic conventional method, so when I say I'm mixing them in the ratio 2:3, so I'll just say that, let's say I have taken 2 kg of this and 3 kg of B. That's one, because the ratio is 2:3. So if I've taken 2 kg of A, that means I've taken 3 kg of B. And after combining, what I end up getting is going to be nothing but I end up getting 5 kg of C, because after combining we get C. And then we added equal amount of milk into this. So therefore, in that, I am able to add 5 kg of milk. So that means now I know my total weight of the entire C along with mixed milk is going to be nothing but 10 kg. And now I have to calculate out of these 10 kg, what is the weight of sugar, so that I'll be able to calculate its percentage. I hope I'm making a sense and mapping how we are leading to whatever is being asked from what is given. Now, in the first, if I look at the sugar, since cocoa to sugar is 3:2, so therefore sugar in the first is 2/5, 2/5 of 2 kg which is equal to 4 by 5 kg, because I know the total weight of A is 2 kg, and out of those sugar is nothing but 2/5 of that, where I got to know that sugar is going to be 4 by 5 kg in the first, while sugar in the second is going to be nothing but 3 by 10 of that 3 kg, right, Kushagra? So therefore, I end up getting is going to be nothing but 9 by 10 kg. So I got to know in the first sugar is 4 by 5 kg, and in the second part, the sugar is going to be 9 by 10. I'm least worried about the other things, but yes, the sugar is there. So therefore, the total amount of sugar when I combine is equals to 4 by 5 plus 9 by 10. And which can be rewritten as, after taking an LCM of 10, it will be nothing but 8 plus 9, which is going to be 17 by 10, which gives me 1.7 kg. So I got to know the total quantity of sugar is going to be 1.7 kg, and the total weight of the mixture or the drink is going to be nothing but 10 kg. So I'm supposed to calculate the percentage. Obviously, it's going to be 1.7 upon 10 into 100, which is coming out to be nothing but 17%, the answer, which is option number 3. Again, the question which came in the real CAT question has no rocket science. It's just the basics which are involved. Please observe it very carefully, right? So with this, we'll be able to calculate this. Please check this. I hope it's clear. This is how we'll be able to calculate. This is one way of looking at it, where I can actually assume a value and then start solving it. So every time, it's not that I need to, or we have to show a hi-fi funda, or I would say a magic in solving it. Even if the question is something which is easy to interpret and I can follow it in a normal method and take less time to solve it, nothing is better, because at the end of the day, nobody will come and look at how you have done it. They are only worried about, they're only concerned about whether you have got it right or not. Because if I write, so obviously it will add 3 marks to my tally. Otherwise, there'll be -1. Right? Now, what could be the alternate way of looking at it? So with practice also, we'll be able to identify. I'll just talk about that also. Whenever we come across a question on ratios, so what else we can do? So I'm just doing it on the right part of the screen, where I'll be telling you how we can go ahead for this. Okay. Now it says A, we have got 3:2. I'm writing cocoa is to sugar. While B, it is 7:3. But in this case, it is coffee is to sugar. Right? And I'm mixing them in the ratio 2:3. So the other way to look at it could be, please observe it very carefully. What could be the alternate way of looking at it? Right? Since I want A and B should be mixed in the ratio 2:3. So first of all, what I'm going to do is nothing but I will try these two as same. Means I'll try and make the weight or a volume same, and then I will multiply A with 2 and B with 3, so that I will get the ratio 2:3. Please observe it carefully. Now I'm saying, first of all, I'll make them same, and then I will multiply A with 2 and B with 3, so that I end up getting the ratio is 2:3, and then we can move forward. Let's observe it carefully. Now, if you look at for A, the ratio is going to be nothing but 3:2. So if I add 3 plus 2, it's going to be 5. While for B, it's 7:3, which becomes 10. So B becomes 7 plus 3, 10, while A becomes 5. First of all, my aim is to make them same. If I make them same, therefore, I will multiply this entire ratio by 2. Now, the advantage of that will be that if you multiply the ratio by 2, I know multiplying ratio by any number does not change its value. So now this will look like nothing but 6:4. While the B is nothing but 7:3. And now if you carefully observe, what I've done is nothing but 6 plus 4 is equal to 10. 7 plus 3 equal to 10. That means I've made them same. But I don't have to take an equal quantity. I have to take them in the ratio 2:3. So therefore, now the next step, this is important, by making them same, the next step will be nothing but multiply first with 2 and second with 3, so that the ratio is 2:3 in terms of its weight. Now just observe how it will come. If I multiply with 2, it will be nothing but 12 is to 8. While for the second, it's going to be 21 is to 9. Now, if you carefully observe, 12 plus 8 is coming out to be nothing but 20, while 29 plus 21 plus 9 is going to be 30. So automatically it is 20 and 30, which are in the ratio 2 is to 3. So what I did is nothing but if I actually tell that again, first of all, I just try to make it same, A and B, and then multiplying the first with 2 and the second with 3 so that I get the ratio as 2 is to 3. Now, that means if the first A is 20, it has got 12 as cocoa while 8 is sugar, while for the second, it is 9 sugar and 21 coffee. Now, if I mix them, can I say the amount of sugar is going to be 8 plus 9, which is 17, while the total weight is going to be 20 plus 30, which is 50. And now I have added equal amount of milk into this. So this is C basically total. So milk added is equal to the equal amount means 50. So therefore now the total volume will come out to be 100. And in that we have got sugar is 17, which is 17%, and hence my answer. Now this is second way of observing it. As I mentioned, there are multiple ways to solve a question. It's all about understanding what is given and what is to be calculated, and you'll see that the job is done. Right? So with practice, we can always do it. So here the question was slightly on the easier side because I have to multiply only the first ratio by 2 and I've made them same. Sometime we have to multiply both the ratios in order to make it same and then follow the same approach. Right? Take around 15-20 seconds to absorb what I've stated. Right? You can always come back and watch this recording, but then yes, so that clarity is there. Let me see any question which is there on this so that I can take care of that. So important is nothing but it's not that every time I need to solve a tougher question. So in every exam, they put some speed breakers also because the question is asked about whether it is level A or a B, right? So there are some speed breaker which are put so that you fell into that trap and thereby waste a lot of time. Right? So therefore, I have to be smart enough in identifying one. I know every question carries equal marks. So it's not about that if you are engineer from a premier college or if you are, let's say, have got a very, very decent maths background. So you are the one who will be solving question in algebra. I'm not saying you cannot solve it, but the point is whether it is advisable, whether it is smart to solve that question over there or not, it will depend upon the difficulty level of the question. Now, even if you are a rock star or cheetah when it comes to algebra is concerned, but if a question of C type is there, so you have to keep your ego aside and then look out for those questions which are either a A level, because A level questions should never be missed. Right? A level questions should never be missed. Right? So if I'm not saying you don't solve it or you cannot solve it, but then smart is enough technique is going to be nothing but first of all solve all those questions which take less time, which are A type. Once I'm able to get over with A, then it's going to be B. If at all I get time, then only it's about solving C. Otherwise, it is not advisable. Right? I hope I'm making sense in that. So therefore, while solving, I mean, don't take it otherwise, but keep your ego aside. You may be smart enough. I'm not saying that, but it's all about understanding what is required at that point of time. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Great, Dhananjay. Good to see you here. Okay, now moving on to the next question. Now, this was a CAT 24. theta type question. That means the options were not given. So therefore, we will not be able to use the play with the option technique over there. But yes, no worries. Let's try and read the question carefully. It says, a fruit seller has a total of 187 fruits consisting of apples, mangoes, and oranges. So total number of fruits are nothing but 187. The number of apples and mangoes are in the ratio 5:2. So that means the ratio of apple to mango is nothing but 5:2. After she sells 75 apples, 26 mangoes, and half of the oranges, the ratio of number of unsold apples to the unsold oranges becomes 3:2. The total number of unsold fruit is. So basically, the total number of fruits are there, which are there nothing but 187, which consist of apple, mangoes, and oranges. They've given you the ratio between the apple and the apple and the mangoes is 5:2. And then there are certain oranges also. Half of the oranges were sold along with 75 apples and 26 mangoes. And after this, what we end up getting is nothing but unsold apple to unsold oranges is nothing but 3:2. And now the question says the total number of unsold fruit is, right? So now if I have to solve the question, the first thing which will come to my mind is going to be nothing but, because apple to mango initially is 5:2. So let's assume that the total number of apple plus mangoes in the beginning is nothing but 5x plus 2x, which is equal to 7x. Because the ratio is given, obviously put some variable to this and I got to know, okay, these are the apple and the mangoes. And then we've got some oranges also, right? And I know apple plus mango plus orange equal to 187. Now, what should be the amount of orange I should assume? Let's try and see. Let's observe it. Because it says half of the oranges are sold. So therefore, if I have to solve a question, I always think, okay, since half is sold and I need to keep myself away from the fraction. So what I'm going to do is nothing but I'll say, let's assume that the number of oranges is 2y. Now, the reason of assuming it 2y is going to be nothing but that half is sold. That means I end up getting again a non-integral value, which looks like a non-integral value. I hope I'm making sense in that. So had they stated 1/3 are sold, I would have taken a value to be 3y. 1/5, I would have taken a value to be 5y. So please ensure that to keep myself away from the decimal values in the first look, I always try and assume a value so that my calculation looks easy. And now, according to the question, we can say that 7x, which is sum of apple plus mangoes, plus 2y is equals to 187, which is the total number of fruit they've mentioned in the beginning. Now, if I need one more relation between x and y, can I say my job will be done? Now they've stated for that is going to be nothing but 75 apples were sold. So therefore, now the remaining apples, if I need to calculate, is equals to, originally it was 5x, 75 are sold. So these are the number of apples that I'm left with. Number of mangoes that I'm left with is going to be nothing but 2x was initially with me and I've sold 26 in that. While if I talk about the oranges, I had initially 2y and half of them are sold. Therefore, I'm left with nothing but y. And now they're saying unsold apples to unsold oranges, that is given ratio as 3:2. That means unsold apples to the unsold oranges is nothing but 3 upon 2, which will give me 5x minus 75 upon y is equals to 3 upon 2. And if we cross multiply and try and solve it, it will come out to be nothing but 10x minus 150 is equal to 3y. Just the cross multiplication. Or if I take variable to one side, so I end up getting 10x minus 3y is equals to 150, while the first equation was nothing but 7x plus 2y is equals to 187. And now the question says the total number of unsold fruits are. So total number of unsold fruit if I need to calculate, so I know once I'm able to know the value of y, once I'm able to know the value of y, so automatically I got to know out of the total 187 fruits that I had, apples sold are 75, mangoes sold are 26. And if I'm able to know how many oranges are sold, so I end up getting, okay, the remaining number, and that is going to be my answer to this. Right? I hope it's clear. And now just observe it very carefully. If I have to solve two linear equation, right, and in two variable, so obviously I need to eliminate the one of the variable, and then based on that, I'll be able to calculate, right? So very quickly, if I multiply first equation with 3 and the second equation with 2 in order to make the coefficient of y same, I can add it and I end up getting the value of x. Once I know the value of x, I can calculate and put the value of y, and therefore my job is going to be done. Now the first equation will become 21x. Yes, I know you can do that. 6y, that's going to be nothing but is equals to 561. So 187 to 3, 180 to 3 is 540, 7 things are 21, 540 plus 21 is going to be. So train your brain to do these kind of a calculation mentally. Initially, you may take a little extra time, but then you have to put your brain into that you have to do it. Karna hai. The more and more you practice, the better chances you'll take less time, because speed of thought is as good as speed of light. You can do the calculation as fast as possible. You can never imagine that also, right? So try and do it. And the other is going to be nothing but 20x minus 6y is equals to 300, because it's going to be double. So 300. So now once you add these two, so I end up getting 41x is equals to 861. So x will become nothing but 41 2s are 82. So I know the value of x is going to be nothing but 21. Once you plug in x as 21, so we end up getting nothing but 2y is equals to 187 minus 147, which is 40, or y will become nothing but 20. And once I know the value of y, so basically, which is 20, and now that means the total number of fruits which are sold is going to be nothing but 121. So therefore, unsold will be nothing but 187 minus 121, which is 66 is going to be my answer to this question. Please observe it. Let me look any query that people have for this question. Right, Pritham, answer is correct. Yeah, we can always say that the number of oranges is going to be 187 minus 7x. Absolutely correct. Right? Yes. So good that people are getting the right answer, and it actually states the level of difficulty is not high. You need to keep yourself calm, look at the data very carefully, and try and put that into number. Automatically the job is done. Right? I hope it's clear. The real CAT 24 question. And we have seen that, I mean, for all the questions that we have done, The questions are not, but the only thing that you need to keep in mind, nothing but reading the data carefully is going to be something which is very, very important. And we know that it's going to be third section. So therefore, practicing those SIMCAT, taking the test, the PYQs are very, very important, because it is very important to keep yourself at the peak for all that 120 minutes, and which will come by practice only. So please ensure that do not miss out on the SIMCATs, right? So we've got like started the third also today. So please ensure that if you have not taken it, I mean, please do book your slot and take that, because it's a very wonderful tool which will help you to plan those 40-minute per section and keep yourself at a peak level for that 120 minutes. So that when you actually go and take an actual paper, it'll be a like of a, that means you're taking one more SIMCAT. You don't feel a pressure of that. Right? I hope I'm making sense in that. Let's move forward. All right, then. Let's read this question. So I'm reading it also because some part in the right hand side is missing. So I'm just reading out for you. It says, Rajesh and Vimal own 20 hectares and 30 hectares of agriculture land respectively. Now, the moment I say respectively, that means Rajesh had 20 while the Vimal had 30, which are entirely covered by wheat and mustard crops. The cultivation area of wheat and mustard in the land owned by Vimal are in the ratio 5:3. If the total cultivation area of the wheat and mustard are in the ratio 11:9, then the ratio of cultivation area of wheat and mustard in the land owned by Rajesh. So basically the information is given. Let's try and pen down all this data so that I will be able to understand what exactly is given and we'll be able to take it forward. So one I got to know, one is Rajesh and the other is Vimal. So Rajesh has got 20 hectares while Vimal has got 30 hectares. Now, it is entirely covered with two crops, wheat and mustard. The cultivation area of wheat and mustard in the land owned by Vimal is in the ratio 5:3. So out of the total, I know 30 hectares which is there with Vimal, it is there in the ratio 5:3. While if you look at the total cultivation area put together for wheat and mustard is nothing but 11:9. For Vimal, it is also there. Now I'm supposed to identify what is the ratio of wheat to mustard in the case of Rajesh. Right? I hope the question is clear. Let's try and observe. Now, again, one of the questions which came in the recent past only, right? So if we go, one is nothing but we can use the concept of allegation and try and do it. But then rather than going deeper into that, let's try and observe this question very carefully and try and see whether we can do it without getting into that also. Now I know since it is 20 hectare and 30 hectare, so I know the total is going to be nothing but 50 hectare. So if I talk about for Vimal, it's going to be 5:3 for wheat and mustard. So wheat is going to be nothing but 5/8 of the total value, while mustard is going to be nothing but 3/8 of the total value. So if I solve it for wheat, it is going to be nothing but 150/8, or it can be written as 75/4, which is coming out to be nothing but 18.75 hectares for wheat. So only keep an eye only on wheat. I know the remaining is going to be the mustard. So wheat grown in the agricultural land for Vimal is 18.75. We got to know that. Now let's talk about wheat which is there for the other person. I know the total is going to be 50 hectares and the wheat is going to be nothing but 11 by 20 of 50 out here, which is coming out to be nothing but if we calculate, it is coming out to be 55 by 2, which is nothing but 27.5. So I know the total wheat grown is going to be 27.5. Out of those, Vimal has grown 18.75 of that. So therefore, the other person, that is Rajesh, must have grown the remaining wheat, which is nothing but 18.75 by Vimal. From the total, if I subtract, so I end up getting, it is going to be nothing but 8.75, because I know 18.75 plus 8.75 is going to be nothing but 27.5. So if 8.75 wheat is grown by Rajesh, so the remaining is going to be mustard. So mustard is going to be 20 minus 8.75, which is coming out to be nothing but 11.25. So that means if we keep an eye only on one content, which is wheat in this case, you may look out for mustard also. So therefore, I got to know for Rajesh is going to be 8.75 is to 11.25. Now, what I can do is nothing but I can smartly play, and then without even solving also, I know if I need to solve this and identify what is going to be the possible option. So I know option number 4 cannot be the answer because the value of the first antecedent or a ratio's first part is going to be smaller. So therefore, option number this is also ruled. Now, if I look at the two options which are there, if you look at the first option, second part is more than double of the first part. And if you look at this, 875 and 1125, second part is less than double. So therefore, option number 1 is also cannot be my answer. So without even solving, by looking at the value, I can say the only option which can be my answer got to be nothing but option number 2. And that is going to be my answer to this question. Right? So now look at how many questions we have solved. So this was the first question, second, third, fourth, and finally the fifth one. Right? I hope the clarity is there. So these are the questions which came in the real CAT. Not tough question. So we've selected these questions. So some other questions are also left. So we'll be meeting sometime again and do the remaining questions of ratios and maybe adding averages and all this into picture, where we'll be talking about the questions and beautiful ways to solve them also. Right? Okay. So yeah. So we'll be meeting again. And we'll talk about some of the other questions also we'll discuss. So anyone has any doubt, you may put it. Else we are done for today's session. I hope you all have enjoyed it. You have understood it. Right? Okay. Yeah. Right, Kushag. Wonderful. Great learner. Preetham. Wonderful. So good part is nothing but people are responding. And if you are able to solve these questions, so this is what you're supposed to do is nothing but practice. And what can be the better way to solve the question other than solving the question which came in the real CAT? Right? If you are able to solve it, it'll give you a good boost. And if you're not, please understand, if you're not able to, you don't have to dishearten. So at least you are able to learn something new, and that's how the things goes. Right? Right then. Thank you so much for being there. I hope you have enjoyed it. So we'll be coming again and we'll do a series in the next. Let's meet again. Till then, bye-bye. Good night. Take care.